Prevalence of urinary stones remain high in cats and in dogs, and this pathology is a concern for practitioners. The balance of the urine depends on very complex mechanisms, and any minor change may have pathological consequences. Essential for the elimination of waste, especially urea, urine contains various free ions. Some are charged positively, the cations, others negatively, or anions. Due to the laws of electricity, they attract each other. Regarding urinary stones, the most important ions are the hydrogen ion, which is nothing but a hydrogen atom which has lost its electron. Concentration of this ion determines pH. Many hydrogen ions mean an acid pH. The calcium ion with 2 positive charges. The ammonium ion, more complex because made of 1 nitrogen atom and 4 hydrogen atoms. It's a positive ion with single charge. Oxalate is made of carbon and oxygen. It's a double negative ion, very important in urinary pathology. Phosphate ion, made of 1 phosphorus atom, 4 oxygen atoms and 1 or 2 hydrogen atoms. Magnesium ion with double positive charge. There are many other electrolytes in urine, like sodium or potassium, but less important as far as urinary stones are concerned. In normal urine, these ions are far from each other and remain free. But what happens when urine becomes more concentrated? Probability of contact between ions increases. These electrolytes have affinity for each other. Oxalate, for instance, can combine to 2 sodium ions, or to 2 potassium ions, or to magnesium. But when it combines to calcium, it makes a very stable salt called calcium oxalate. If a phosphate ion, an ammonium ion and a magnesium ion meet, they can combine. The resulting molecule is called struvite and is more stable than the different elements alone. Molecules agglomerate to form a crystal that can be seen with a microscope. The struvite crystal has a characteristic coffin shape, while calcium oxalate crystallizes in a tetragonal shape. Thousands of crystals can aggregate to make a stone that is visible to the naked eye. Among the most frequent stones, struvite has the property of being dissolved by acidity. For a long time, urinary pH was considered as a good indicator for assessing the risk of urinary stone. Most cat food was acidified for the purpose of preventing struvite, and indeed prevalence of these calculi decreased, but at the same time, calcium oxalate stones increased. Today, pH is not a sufficient indicator for urinary stones. In 1969, a British researcher, Dr. Robertson, used for the first time RSS to analyse urine in human medicine.
RSS is short for relative supersaturation, which means the potential of urine to form the crystals that go to form the kidney stones. By simply checking urine pH, that is only one of the risk factors involved in the crystallization of the salts that go to make kidney stones. RSS, by taking into account the concentrations of all the other ions that go to make the stones, is a much better measure of the risk of forming crystals. To measure RSS in human urine, as well as in pet urine, you have to measure the pH of the urine and the total concentrations of calcium, oxalate, sodium, potassium, ammonium, phosphate, citrate, sulfate, and uric acid. RSS is calculated by taking into account all the mutual complexes, soluble complexes, that are formed between these various ions. That is a very complex calculation, and to carry it out manually would take many hours for each individual urine. A computer program called SuperSat has been devised, which will calculate these iron concentrations in a very short space of time, within 1 second, and will give you the RSS value of each of the salts in that particular urine.
Thanks to the Waltham Centre of Pet Nutrition, RSS has been adapted to the vet field.
One of the biggest challenges is collecting a complete urine sample, so a 24, or in most cases we actually use a 48-hour urine sample. And the reason for that is because the volumes we're dealing with from cats and from small dogs are quite small compared with, say, the volume from a human. So one has to try and collect the urine, and we train the animals to urinate in specific places within their pens. We have litter trays for the cats and similar setups for the dogs as well. As the urine is naturally voided, it then has to be frozen on collection. So underneath the litter trays, in the urine collection part of it, we enclose the collection vessel in dry ice to ensure that the urine is frozen very quickly. And this preserves it for subsequent analysis. The analysis is also quite complex. In total, we analyse around 13 different parameters in urine, including urine pH and volume, but then a series of chemical analysis of the individual ions which are present within the urine. This is done by HPLC, and it took a while to develop the methodologies to ensure that we were accurately measuring these substances. And we've shown that you can achieve low levels of saturation with calcium oxalate at moderately acidic pHs, such as one would use for controlling Struvite, as well as at neutral pHs. And we've actually found no advantage in alkalinising urine from a moderately acidic pH level to a more alkaline or neutral level in terms of reducing calcium oxalate supersaturation.
Today, RSS, also called SO index, is used daily at the Royal Canin Research Centre to develop food adapted to the physiology of dogs and cats.
There is a dogma in the vet literature now that pH is an important factor against calcium oxalate stones. This dogma is based on association between urinary pH and the prevalence of calcium oxalate stone. And it's true that in cat, the prevalence has increased with the generalization of the so-called acidifying diet. But we observed the same change in the canine population, and there was no generalization of the acidifying diet. In our work, sodium chloride, the salt, seems to be the best factor to increase excretion of urine, and also to decrease the SO index for calcium oxalate. This finding is very much in line with 2 epidemiological studies that show that dye high in sodium are also protective against calcium oxalate in dogs and in cats. The level of sodium that we use to stimulate diuresis has no effect on blood pressure and renal function, even in dogs and cats with compromised renal functions. We are actually working right now on a special sugar, an alcohol sugar that is called mannitol, and we seem to have interesting results. So we hope to be able to use that compound also to stimulate diuresis.
RSS has been extremely useful in helping us to understand why stones form in humans and also in animals.
Well, the work that we've done has shown us quite convincingly that with appropriate diet design, you can design a product that both reduces the risk of struvite formation and at the same time reduces the risk of calcium oxalate formation.
I think that's a very good tool. It allows us to demonstrate that a diet can be both formulated to prevent calcium oxalate and struvite stones.
By studying the influence of nutrition on urine composition, Royal Canin has achieved a tremendous progress in the development of high-quality food for the greater benefit of dogs and cats.